115 hours. I've spent over 115 hours playing Paladins since the console beta launched on May 3rd. Some would call this blasphemy. Others would understand completely. Regardless, I see no signs of stopping in my future. But why? Isn't Paladins just a terrible Overwatch ripoff? So many people are likely to ask. Nah, not really. They are similar, but I think this is more of a case of a genre, the hero shooter, officially emerging. I don't want to get into the mess of which abilities or designs for which characters came first. And honestly, I don't even think it matters. It's too complicated even if you don't include other titles like Team Fortress 2 into the drama. What matters is that Paladins can stand on its own, at very least as a more competitive version of Overwatch. A deeper, albeit less aesthetically pleasing alternative. Now, unlike many, I wouldn't say that Paladins is Overwatch with depth. Is it deeper than Overwatch? In some ways, yeah. Is Overwatch completely lacking in depth, though? No. Some aspects of Overwatch even offer extra bits of depth that Paladin somewhat lacks. One example would be Mercy, who effectively can't really deal any damage. Yes, she has a gun, but outside of very specific circumstances, it's not really going to be safe or smart to use. So she effectively has no offensive options of her own, meaning playing her is completely different from anyone else. Other characters offer abilities unique to them that don't have a cooldown. The only characters that offer this in Paladins are Maeve with her double jump, and Drogos with his limited flight. Technically, the aim down sights, sprint, and manual detonation abilities characters like Victor, Kinessa, and Bomb King have use no cooldown either, but they don't offer the same amount of depth as flight or a double jump. They're either in use or they're not. They don't interact with any other systems. But being able to fly or double jump allows you to do more than just get height advantages. You can use these abilities to reach ledges your enemies can't effectively reach. You can use it to leap over a wall to safety. You can use it to break line of sight or avoid ultimates. The player has agency over these abilities, which you really don't have when you're just detonating Bomb King's sticky bombs. You either do or you don't. Overwatch has many more inherent character abilities like this. Bastion can turn into a turret. Genji can run up walls. Lucio can wall ride. Pharah can fly like Drogos. These sorts of abilities that are inherent to a character's design rather than being set on a cooldown offer a unique feel which fundamentally changes how you utilize them. I'd like to see Paladins experiment with this sort of thing. Regardless, the rest of the depth in Overwatch, which there is a lot of, comes mostly down to the other abilities each character has. Since characters can't be altered in any way, their good and bad matchups are sort of set in stone until updates change the meta. Junkrat can never make his mind jump more effective. McCree can never do more damage to Reinhardt's shield. Torbjorn can never place down an extra turret. This is one of the fundamental differences between the two games, and it's a large part of what can make Paladins feel more competitive without being entirely at the mercy of developer updates. Paladins allows players to alter their characters in two different ways. The first is through the card loadout system. This system works rather similarly to the Pick 13 system in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, which is seen in other forms in other Call of Duties. In Paladins, you have 5 slots to fill with cards, that each offer alterations to how a character works. One card might heal your character by X amount of health each time they use Y ability. Another might give them X percentage more control when in the air. The player is required to fill all 5 slots, which takes up 5 points. They then have 7 more points they can use to upgrade these cards. So if at level 1 a card makes you 10% less susceptible to slow, then at level 2 it might be 20%, level 3 at 30%, and level 4, the maximum for any card, at 40%. This not only allows the player to tailor their character a bit more to their playstyle, but it also allows them to make loadouts that specifically counter opposing team structures or fit certain maps or modes. Each character can also select from 3 legendary cards that really can change the entire feel of a character. Bomb King initially seems mostly like a high-risk, high-reward damage dealer character who really needs to stay back and chuck stickies from afar. But if you use his legendary that allows his poppy bombs to launch him 50% further, and combine that with an air control boost card, suddenly he's like 3 times as mobile as Junkrat, allowing crazy escapes, tons of safe time to chuck grumpy bombs or charge his ultimate while in the air, etc. He can flank pretty well, or get in the enemy's face really quickly, or contest the point when nobody else has the chance to. Where his Poppy Bomb was otherwise primarily used as a way to zone enemy characters before, with this legendary, it can now be a super effective primary source of mobility that even rivals characters such as Eevee. All of these cards tend to work around the core design of a character as well, so you can't suddenly fundamentally change a damage dealer into a flank, but you can give them some abilities that can allow them to do that sort of thing in an emergency, or just shore up the things they're already best at. The other design decision that allows Paladins players to fine-tune their playstyle is in the item system the game uses. During a match, players will earn points for various things depending on their role, from dealing damage, to killing players on a streak, to healing, etc. These points can then be spent on one of several items in 4 categories, very similar to MOBAs. These items can be upgraded a total of twice after the initial purchase, and can alter the flow of a match entirely if they're used correctly. Knowing the strengths and weaknesses of your team, your character, and the opponent's team is key. If the opponent has 2 front lines with super effective shields, you might want to invest in the Wrecker item, which boosts the damage you do to shields by a ton. You can also hold off on buying items to scout out weaknesses in your enemies. Even if they have a Pip, a Maldamba, and a Ceres, that doesn't mean they're going to be effective healers in the first place, so maybe you won't want to purchase Cauterize, which limits the effectiveness of healing for a few seconds when you hit an enemy, and those points might be better invested elsewhere. Items also give you something to do while waiting for rounds to start or when waiting to respawn, meaning there's very little downtime in Paladins. It tries really hard to keep you engaged. But beyond just making your team more effective in general, and matches between well-balanced teams even more engaging, this control over your character's playstyle also has one important effect that Overwatch cannot replicate as of now. Even extremely unbalanced teams can be balanced in Paladins. My friends and I experimented with this quite a bit. We were able to see how these systems handled really extreme teams, like a team of only support characters, or a team of only front lines, or a team of only flanks. What we noticed was that items either allowed us to bolster our strengths, or make up for our weaknesses in ways that made even the most unbalanced matches winnable. We may have had to play in very particular ways to do so, but it wasn't impossible. This limits frustration in random games when nobody wants to play support or whatever, because the game gives you options to make up for such a deficiency. Honestly, that meant that the biggest frustration in this game were people that were AFK, or people who avoided playing the objective almost entirely, both of which are going to be a universal problem in any objective-based online shooter. Don't get me wrong, it's still a little bit annoying when somebody picks Ceres and decides to flank instead of provide support. But if you understand the strengths of your character, and how the other team is playing their characters, items can give you a better chance of making up for that deficiency. All of this is supported by the fact that characters in Paladins generally all have some sort of offensive option that can allow them to play a bit more of a jack-of-all-trades role. While this can encourage bad habits from players, it doesn't dilute the unique nature of any of the characters like I expected it to. Instead, it further closes the gap between traditionally unbalanced teams and those that are perfectly set up to own. The unique nature of each character is still completely accounted for. So far, Paladins doesn't allow players on the same team to pick the same character in any mode, so you won't see 5 Pips running around wrecking shop. And beyond that, competitive doesn't even allow 2 people in the entire match to pick the same character. While this does lead to a race for the character you want, it is yet another small push toward competitive balance. Because of all of this, it's entirely possible that Paladins will never reach the highs that Overwatch does in terms of raw fun, but it also isn't likely to ever reach the same lows of frustration and anger. Even just the inclusion of mounts, as ridiculous as they are, allows players to get back into the action faster, meaning death has less of an infuriating punishment. So which is better then, Paladins or Overwatch? Man, I don't freaking know. Overwatch has a bit more originality and polish. Paladins seems like a much better competitive game. Overwatch has more loot to keep players going, and more interesting maps, but Paladins is set up entirely to make a fantastic esport, and isn't even on its 1.0 release yet, which you can definitely feel because there are glitches galore. I don't think it matters which is better. Both can coexist, and paying attention to what the other does can allow them to build upon each other and make the genre even better. While I'm personally kind of sad that McCree isn't in Paladins, I'll be fine playing it for another 100 hours and beyond. As a fun little exercise though, I decided to come up with a few concepts for Paladins characters that I think would give it a bit more of the unique design that some of the Overwatch characters offer. I'll show a concept for the character, and then go into their list of abilities. First up is Gearhead, who's a frontline. Ability 1, Combo Slash. 3-hit combo of slashes. The final hit knocks the enemy into the air. Ability 2, Defend. Blocks most damage against himself. Every success gives shielding to nearby allies. This has no cooldown, but it takes a moment to ready, and Gearhead can't heal while using it. It also slows his movement and makes him weak to back attacks. Ability 3, Piercer. A straight dash/lunge attack. Can be used 3 times before cooldown. It also pierces to hit multiple enemies. Ability 4, Mighty Guard. Gearhead plants his sword into the ground, and a small shield emanates from it. You can't move while using this ability, but it blocks damage like a normal shield. After a set time, or the shield is destroyed, the sword is pulled out of the ground and it creates an AoE quake which damages and slows enemies caught in it. Ultimate, Unlock Potential. This ability powers up all other abilities until death. Combo Slash does extra damage and is slightly faster. Defend readies faster and you can move slightly faster when using it. Piercer slows enemies it hits for 1 second, and Mighty Guard creates a slightly bigger/stronger shield, and the AoE Quake now does base damage, plus a small percentage of any damage the shield absorbed. Next up is Dr. Sludge, a support. Ability 1, Sludge Shot. This basic attack expels the currently loaded sludge type from the nozzle of your gun. The sludge stays active until a couple of seconds after reloading, until the small ammo cooldown resets when switching sludge types, or for a maximum of 10 seconds, whichever comes first. Your clip reloads when switching sludge types, meaning you can switch to get a nearly instant reload, but then you have to deal with the cooldown before you can use the previous sludge type again. Importantly, one sludge type will replace another on a surface, meaning they don't stack. So what are the sludge types then? Ability 2, Slow Sludge. As the name suggests, this sludge slows any enemies currently standing in it, with the effect continuing for a second afterward. There's also a legendary card that will replace this with Poison Sludge. Ability 3, Soothing Sludge. This heals allies who are touching it, including when it's on the wall. The healing effect grows more powerful, up to a certain level, the longer the character stays on the sludge, but the stack resets immediately as soon as they step off the sludge. Unlike with Maldamba, this ability has no negative effect on enemies. Ability 4, Searing Sludge. This ammo type is essentially oil. Spray it everywhere and then press the Searing Sludge button again to toss a match and light it on fire. It only lights the trail of sludge it makes contact with, so if you have 2 separate spots of sludge that don't connect, they won't both light. Switching to another ammo type while Searing Sludge is out allows Dr. Sludge to still briefly light said oil. If they do, the ammo cooldown will immediately start directly after. If they don't, the ammo cooldown will start once the Searing Sludge fades. Ultimate, Sludge Surge. In this ultimate, your weapon malfunctions, making it so that the next time you hit each ammo ability button, the gun will immediately fire a massive glob of that sludge type. You can fire all 3 types in rapid succession, and they will all stay on the field for the full 10 seconds, simultaneously. Though just like normal, they won't stack in an area, meaning you want to be careful not to replace one glob with another. The searing sludge glob lights as soon as it hits the ground as well. Meanwhile, your basic attack button will still fire the currently equipped ammo type, and using a glob means you can switch to that ammo type before using other globs. However, the gun will reset and fix the malfunction after a set period of time, meaning you can't just sit on globs forever and wait to use them. If that's too confusing, an alternative ultimate could just combine all of the effects of all 3 ammo types for one full clip. One possibly unique mechanic Dr. Sludge could have is that he could shoot sludge onto the ceiling as well. This would drip down to the area below. That would mean the sludge is obviously less effective than otherwise, but it would also be much less obvious to the enemy, meaning it could be used for traps. One other unrelated idea I had was for a shield that is the basis for another frontline's defensive abilities. This character could create a shield by putting down 2 small emitters. The shield would be created between the 2 emitters, with a limited range between them of course. They could even have a legendary card that makes it so that the shield is stronger the smaller it is. Maybe both the emitters and the shield could be damaged, but the shield is affected by Wrecker, and the emitters are affected by Bulldoze since they're deployables. The emitters aren't both destroyed when one is, unless the shield itself is destroyed, meaning if only one emitter goes down, you only need to replace that one. Emitters cannot be picked up, but they can be replaced once the cooldown for them is reset. And maybe each emitter could offer a small AoE boon unique to itself to your allies. That way there's a beneficial reason for why each of these emitters takes its own ability slot. Maybe one could speed allies up, while the other gives them a very small shield every few seconds. So, now that in its current state, Paladins has a good competitive basis and a well-rounded roster of characters, I think it would be great to see more unique characters and ideas like this. Characters who play in a way all their own, which players will really be able to dig into the meta of. Tell me what you think of all of this. Have you played Paladins? What about Overwatch? What did you like or dislike about either? And what sort of changes or additions would you make? Post down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in another one, here's the last one that I uploaded. You can also follow me on Twitter or subscribe by hitting the subscribe button.